Top 10 Secret Chambers and Passages. Whether for evil, utilitarian, or survival-related purposes, man has almost always made secret chambers, tunnels, and places. Since another tiny piece of history is discovered every time one is discovered or made public, I find the subject to be quite intriguing. Here, we look at 10 of them, each with a unique history. Number 10, Montsent Ordeal. In the stunning Vosges Mountains of France, at 2,500 feet above sea level, the Montsent Ordeal Abbey was established in the 7th century. Its library has housed numerous rare and antiquated volumes for many years, but beginning in 2003, odd things started to occur. Many of these books began to vanish mysteriously. The room was tightly locked and no one was let in, so no one knew where these books were. When the police were eventually summoned, they found that a section of the bookcase had swung back to reveal a hidden entry. A local teacher named Stanislas Goss was arrested soon after a security camera was set up. He reportedly made the decision to embark on his own exploration after discovering a map to the secret tunnel in the city archives. In order to access the hidden staircases that wove their way toward a long-forgotten, centuries-old medieval door that directly led to the swinging bookshelf in the library, he scaled the monastery's exterior walls. It is believed that the tunnel's original purpose was to allow elder monks to listen in on conversations between younger monks occurring in the library. Goss claimed that in addition to wanting a thrill, he seized the books because he believed they had been abandoned. 1,000 of the monastery's books were safely stored in his small apartment. Number 9, 21 Club. During Prohibition in the 1920s, speakeasies popped up all throughout New York City to satisfy thirsty citizens' needs for alcohol and a good time. However, among them all, the 21 Club may have been the most intelligent. The proprietors kept their vast supply of booze hidden in the building next door, which they also owned. This secret storage area was concealed by a large door that was designed to resemble a simple cement wall. Only an 18-inch wire could be used to open the massive door, which weighed 2.5 tons and was inserted through one of the countless holes in the cement. With a little force, the door into the basement next door would swing open, revealing hundreds of bottles of booze. Even though the 21 Club was often searched by law enforcement, neither the owners nor the patrons were ever apprehended, thanks to this hidden chamber and a system of levers that were used to tip shelves and drop bottles into the sewers below. During Prohibition, numerous notable individuals and powerful politicians were rumored to have indulged in alcohol in the secret cellar, including the mayor of New York City. Number 8, House of Horrors. On the charming British island of Jersey in the English Channel, the horrific specifics of the Haute de la Garenne children's home were made public in 2008. Rumors of highly ominous discoveries appeared after reports of abuse. 4 underground chambers were unearthed after a thorough police investigation, and what was found there shocked not only the island but the entire world. There have been reports of shallow tubs filled with blood, baby teeth, and bone fragments. In these subterranean areas, the young members of the household were punished. The research states that such abuse and murder mostly happened in the 1960s, but they also happened from the 1940s until the 1980s. The bad behavior that was being punished included floggings, druggings, sexual assaults, and solitary confinement in these dreadful rooms, it was determined through numerous interviews and investigation. Not only that, but it was also said that Edward Paynell, a notorious serial sex offender also known as the Beast of Jersey, made journeys to Haute de la Garenne to carry out his heinous crimes. Since many victims have come forward in the ensuing years, there is now a long record of reports of abuse and murder. The only good to come out of these tragedies is that Jersey has now passed legislative measures to ensure that crimes like this never again. This is true even though many of the first horror claims have now been shown to be exaggerations or entirely incorrect. Number 7, Colditz Castle. During World War II, a large number of British and French soldiers were held as POWs in Germany's Colditz Castle. A very daring escape was planned and prepared in this castle's attic. In order to hide a room in the attic, the small party of prisoners, led by British Lieutenant Tony Rolt and pilots Bill Goldfinch and Jack Best, constructed a false wall and ceiling out of mud and wooden shutters. Construction on a stealth glider began here. Surprisingly, when their German inmates arrived in the vicinity, they failed to see this newly built room at all. They painstakingly created a flyable glider out of little more than shards of things they had gathered in the region of the castle where they were being held captive. Their creation, the Kolditz-Cock, could ascend to the roof, and an escape launch was scheduled for the spring of 1945. The POW camp was nonetheless freed by American troops just before the planned escape date. Number 6. The Coffin House. In spite of its name suggesting malice, this structure was, some 150 to 160 years ago, a ray of hope. Levi Coffin, a Quaker and an abolitionist, lived in this small brick house in Fountain City, Indiana. One of the many secret rooms in the house was a tiny room off the bedroom. Even while the structure itself wasn't all that noteworthy, what transpired there unquestionably was. Coffin successfully housed 2,000 escaped slaves who were using the Underground Railroad to escape before the American Civil War started in this little room. Over a period of 20 years, these escaped slaves would hide out in the room for weeks at a time while they prepared for the next stage of their escape. A single slave story, Eliza, was portrayed in Harriet Beecher Stowe's well-known book Uncle Tom's Cabin. Because he made it possible for every slave to escape to freedom, Levi Coffin gained the title President of the Underground Railroad. Number 5. Pasado di Vorgo. The Pasado di Vorgo was a secret passageway that linked Vatican City to the Castel Sant'Angelo, or Mausoleum of Hadrian, in Rome. It was roughly 800 meters long and opened in 1277. Pope Nicholas III had it built, and other popes after him used it as a crucial escape route. Pope Alexander VI used it to escape Charles VIII's invasion in 1494, and Pope Clement VII used it to escape during the sack of Rome in 1527. It is also rumored that he used it to secretly visit some of his mistresses. Fans of author Dan Brown might also remember seeing the corridor in Angels and Demons, one of his works. Now that it is more well-known and accessible to tourists, the Pasado di Vorgo. If a man runs 77 times up and down the hall, he is supposed to restore his lost virility. Number 4. Mexican or U.S. drug tunnel. This complex 2,200-foot-long tunnel was discovered in November 2010 and features a toy train system, ventilation, and fluorescent lights. It connects the kitchen of a home in Tijuana, Mexico, to two warehouses in an industrial region of San Diego, California. The route, which was used to smuggle massive amounts of marijuana, cocaine, and methamphetamine into the United States, is thought to have been developed by the Sinaloa drug cartel in Mexico, which is commanded by Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the most wanted drug lord in the world. Off the tunnel is a hidden staircase that leads to a room 50 feet below ground that contained an enormous amount of marijuana. Over 20 tons of marijuana were seized by law authorities in the US and Mexico combined. Numerous hidden routes have been found along the two countries' border since the early 1990s, but this most recent one is by far the most intricate and lengthy. Number 3. FDR's Grand Central Terminal Passageway. The largest train station in the world, Grand Central Terminal in New York City, was constructed in 1913 and contains the most platforms. Therefore, it stands to reason that there would be a variety of hidden spaces, including the network of tunnels, warehouses, and underground railways. In between all of them is Track 61, a secret train platform that leads to an elevator that goes straight to the renowned Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Through this hidden passage, President Franklin D. Roosevelt entered Manhattan in secrecy. He used it as a way to avoid the intrusive questions and flashbulbs of reporters as he traveled from his train to his hotel. Additionally, it shielded his polio from being openly visible to the public. Despite the fact that millions of people crawl just a few feet away from it each year, the entrance to this long-forgotten passage is currently welded shut. Number 2. Indian National Library. This recently discovered hidden room is part of the Indian National Library, which is housed at the Belvedere House in Calcutta, November 2010. The Archaeology Survey of India discovered the site of a large, mysterious room that was about 1,000 square feet in size this year as the building underwent renovation. Its mystery is increased by the fact that they have searched every inch of the enclosure's walls and roof but have been unable to find a doorway leading inside. What was found was a walled-up arch with one side visible. Due to the fact that the Belvedere House was the seat of the British governors and lieutenant governors throughout the British colonial period, there are some intriguing theories on what might be concealed within the chamber's walls. It's probable that the British at the time often locked up offenders in death chambers because some stories assert that the room looks to be the same size that such a chamber would have had. Others claim that because the British at the time were widely known for hiding their wealth in locations known as blind chambers, it might contain buried treasures. A colonial governor or lieutenant governor would have been a wealthy man, therefore it's a logical assumption. Because a wall cannot be removed due to the building's historical value, archaeologists are presently waiting for permission from India's Ministry of Culture before they cut a hole through the wall to peer inside with a searchlight. Number 1 Chamber of Horrors. He was the first serial killer in the nation. Herman Webster Mudgett, better known as H. Holmes, was a pitiful degenerate. He constructed a huge building in Chicago in 1893 and ran it as a hotel or hostel using shady methods such as insurance fraud and the occasional murder for hire. His ascent to status in the community was aided by the fact that he also operated a pharmacy on the same street. But beneath his seeming integrity lay a hideous monster. It is discovered that he spent years committing horrifying and violent murders at the scene of his construction. As it came to be called, the murder castle included a number of peculiar architectural elements, such as secret passageways and trapdoors that gave Holmes access to visitors' chambers but were only found after his eventual imprisonment. The dissecting room and cremation, which were concealed in the basement and into which the bodies of victims were carried by a chute from higher floors, were, however, the most terrible places. The Chamber of Horrors was used as a laboratory for the testing of various forms of torture, burial techniques, and medical equipment. Estimates state that there have been at least 50 violent killings of women.